For latest updates and short audio clips, follow us on Instagram, Reading the Author.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast Reading the Author, a unique show where we read authors' mind and not their book. Meanwhile, I truly believe and pray that you and your families are completely safe and healthy as well. Today we have Fiona Budd ma'am with us, the author of A Little Book of Tree Wisdom. Thank you so much ma'am for coming on our show. We are truly grateful of yours.
Thank you so much, Gaurav.
So pleasure ma'am. And ma'am, like before we get into the podcast and know much more about your books, about your vision and everything, I would request you to please introduce yourself so that our listeners can know much more about you.
Thank you. Yes, so I'm Fiona Budd. I live in Johannesburg, South Africa, and I was originally a professional ballet dancer. I grew up in South Africa, then I trained in London for a year at Royal Ballet School. I danced professionally for 17 years, and I was also part of starting a ballet company here called the South African Ballet Theatre. And since then, I've moved into the non-profit world, non-profit and philanthropy, and I'm the director of the St. David's Marist Foundation, which is a school foundation where I raise funds for bursaries. So I've always been in the creative, artistic, and now philanthropic space, and I think there's a lot of parallels with both of those.
So ma'am, can you share with us when did that first thought struck in your mind? I have to write a book as of now.
It's funny because when I was little, I always knew I wanted to be a ballet dancer, but then I had a list of about 20 other things I also wanted to be. And one of them was a writer. But I never thought my book would come about in this way. So that was absolutely fascinating for me. And I've always written poetry. Just as I was growing up, I've always written poetry. And I find it quite similar to ballet and dancing, because I think words in a poem are like musical words, and like the ballet and dancing is how the steps are set to music, the words are almost set to music, the rhythm of the poetry. So my book ended up being what I call a tree poem, the way it came about.
Okay. So ma'am, as we know that the book is released and it's performing really well, but from a new reader's perspective, like after listening to this podcast, many people will be willing to just go for it, purchase it and read it. So from their perspective, like what a new reader can expect from your book, like can you share some insights?
Yes, I think for me, the book came about completely by accident. It came about in the middle of our first lockdown here in South Africa, which was probably about the time of everyone else's lockdowns as well. It was in May 2020. And I started going for a walk because our first lockdown, we couldn't even go out apart from just to go to get groceries. But then we could start going out in the morning for 3 hours for some exercise. And I started going for a walk. And I would stop off there was a tree in my neighborhood. I'd just stop off there and think, just have a little bit of a think and try and get my head around this strange world we now found ourselves in. And I had something that was really troubling me I was thinking about. And next thing, I sort of felt like I got the answer to my question, just popped into my head. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because it didn't feel like I thought that. So I thought, well, it must have come from my tree. So it sort of developed into this tree poem where each day I'd walk to my tree and almost there would be another sort of verse that would come to me. And everything there I found very helpful for helping me, giving me the answer about how to sort of navigate the world we were sort of dealing with then. And I shared it with a friend of mine, she's a published poet, just to say, this is sort of what's come about for me. And she said to me, you must get this published. She'd shared it with her partner. Her partner was using it for meditation. And I think that's sort of what the book has become. It's a sort of a meditation and a sort of little words of wisdom for you to reflect on. And sometimes I just open up the book to one page, and it's just got some message there that really helps me to just reflect and think and sort of know how to navigate my day.
Definitely, ma'am. In fact, personally, what I feel that many times we just ignore the energies of our nature and everything. But this is
Yes.
the main reason, because if we go to some places where there are rivers, sea, and trees, that's why we heal our soul. That's why
Yes.
the energies of there just heal our soul, and we feel a bit relaxed. So we what I feel that we don't have to just ignore these things, because let's say if we start thinking about something, and we want some answers, and then we suddenly fall asleep, then many a times it happens with me that in my dreams I get the answers, like as soon as I wake up I have the clarity in my mind. So there
I
are
completely agree.
definitely some
Yes.
energies, and most people are ignoring that, but I hope that very soon people start realizing these things as well.
Yes, and that's what I felt. My tree, it was my tree communicating with me. This little tree that gave me these messages that have helped me so much, and which I think that's what if it can help other people and bring beauty to their lives and connect them with nature, that to me is a real gift.
Definitely. So, ma'am, like, what can we expect more from? Like, talking from that reader who has already read your book, so what he or she can expect from you? Like, you want to experiment a little bit on some other genres, or like, basically, what's in the pipeline as of now?
Well, at the same time, and sort of as I was connecting with my tree, there was a crow, a bird hanging around as well. And I felt like the crow was also starting to give me messages. So I started writing those down. So a little book of crow wisdom will be the next book in time. So I'm still hearing from my crow. Yes, but when readers, if they purchase the book, it's illustrated by a young art student at the school where I work, and in the last picture in the book, all of the pictures are a girl with a tree, but in the very last picture, they will see there's a crow in the tree, and that's to give the hint that that's what the next book is that's coming.
Okay, ma'am. So those who have already read ma'am's book, they don't have to dishearten, because something is coming for them as well. And
Yes.
so ma'am, my next question to you is, like, most of the authors are just working to create a, you can say, a sort of impact on their readers' mind. Okay, let's say if they want to be known or remembered as a certain type of certain genre author. Let's say if a couple of years from now, if anybody sees your name, okay, it's a book by Fiona Budman, then what sort of impact do you want to create on that reader's mind, that that certain that instinct, okay, it's a book by Fiona ma'am, then this is the things which I'm gonna feel, or these are the lessons which I'm gonna learn from her? Like, any sort of strategy or branding you're working upon?
I think it's definitely in the field of nature and spirituality. For me, it is like a little meditation book, connecting you in with nature. And I mean, taking care of our environment is very important to me, as to many people, and sort of conserving our world. And as part of my book, I wanted it to have a giving back to the environment aspect. So for every copy that is sold of my book, whether through Amazon, whether Kindle, whether the print copies here in South Africa, I donate to a non-profit called One Tree Planted, and one tree is planted around the world. There are projects around the world. So for me, that was a very important part of the book, that it had to give back, well, to trees, I suppose, and yes, and to people and the environment.
So ma'am, like, now coming to this industry, that the book industry, like, yes, these days the numbers of authors are getting increased day by day, as we can see that the publishing has become so much easier as it was used to be. Amazon direct publishing has been launched. There are lots of literary agents there, new publications houses are opening every while. So these are the things which are promoting authors. But from a author's perspective, like, what sort of competition do you feel in this industry? Like a sort of neck to neck competition, because the numbers of books are getting increased day by day? Or you're someone who feels that in creativity there's no competition, everyone is there in their own race, and every book will find it their own reader, every author will find its own particular audience? What's your take on this?
Yes, my take's definitely the second theory that you mentioned, that everyone has their own creativity. There's no competition in that way, because everyone has a unique gift and creativity to bring to the world. And as you say, it's true, there are lots and lots of books out there, more than ever before, but nobody can write what you write, and nobody can bring to the world what you bring. And I often think about a special book I've read, or a piece of music I've listened to, or a dance I've watched, and I think, imagine if that person had said, oh well, there's too much out there already, nobody's going to be interested, and it's something that really feeds my soul. I just think, imagine if they thought that and hadn't done this, and that gift would have been lost to the world.
Ma'am, and ma'am, like, my next question is very something which I personally feel that as I have said that numbers of authors are getting increased day by day. Parallelly, the numbers of readers are getting decreased day by day. Like, the amount of commitment, the amount of patience one needs to complete a book is really lacking in today's generation. Like, we have Instagram Reels, TikTok and everything. In a 15-second video also, we are swiping up to see something new, something creative, which just grab our attention. And when it comes to committing to a book, that's completely a different thing, which is very rare in today's generation. So was that a main reason that you have kept your book just of 43 pages, or you don't want to just stretch things? Okay, if let's say the story is of, or something is about, it's a short story, then also some authors what they do is they just stretch it to so extent that people feel boring or something like that. So what was the main reason behind keeping it just a 43 pages book?
I think it was, yes, I think it was sticking with my, you can say, with my my natural, my feeling around it was when there were 22 verses or messages that it was complete, it was finished. So it would have felt, maybe the word is, it wouldn't have felt authentic to then to have tried to push it to further, because that wasn't what, like, the 22 messages were the complete version. So that was it was complete. So I couldn't push it further. It wouldn't have felt right.
So as of now, ma'am, do you have any particular writing schedule, like you devote some hours every day to writing, or it's as it happens with me, that if I get some ideas or some some points, I just jot it down on my phone diary, and then after some days when I get time, I just just fulfill them and describe them? How does it goes with you?
Yes, it's more like your technique. But yes, I will get little bits of inspiration and jot them down as I get them, and then find a time to pull them together. And part of this book was walking to see my tree. So that was an important part, you could say, of the writing process. And it was sort of became a little bit of like a waltz in my head as I walked there. When I would get to my tree, and then I would sort of receive the message, and then I would repeat it in my head all the way home, just to make sure I didn't forget it, and I'd write it down, and then I would sort of carry on with the work day. So it's definitely writing down fragments. I have books filled with fragments. But yeah.
Ma'am, as of now, we have talked about your journey, about your vision, about your book, about everything. So now, coming to your personal life, like, there must be a lot of moments which you just count of being happiest moment of your life. But if you can share any single one of them with us, then that would be really great.
Well, I think always dancing is always a happiest moment of my life. I said I was a professional ballet dancer. I'm still involved in the ballet world, and that brings me great joy. And that is I sometimes think I was maybe made a ballet dancer before I was made a human being. It's sort of a funny, like, feeling. It never gets out of your system. And then just being able to create ballets. I've always got ballets sort of percolating in my head that I'm creating and writing down. I've got a sort of finished one that I would like to put on one day. When I was with the ballet company, I did quite a bit of choreography as well. And also then I love joining together different styles. And we did a beautiful piece with a choreographer here in South Africa, combining classical Indian dancing with ballet. And it was a really beautiful piece. So I love seeing how you can how you can merge and yes, create new works.
Okay. And ma'am, like now let's go back to the time when your book, when you heard that tomorrow your book is about to release. So on the eve of that day, what was going in your mind? Like, were you feeling stressed, relaxed, excited, or as you said that you were a belly dancer, so lots of people will be knowing you, and you have set in some, just marked up some milestones. Okay, these many people know me, so my book has to do this much of sales. Like, what was going in your mind at that time?
Yeah, I think it was excitement but also nervousness, because it's sort of like, well, what if I'm the only one who actually gets what my book is about and everyone else just doesn't get it at all? And I mean, I have had that experience. I had someone who did a review and I could tell they didn't get it at all. And they said something about it fails to take root. And that was hard to, it's hard to deal with. You can almost say rejection of it. What feels like this is your little baby you've brought to the world and somebody's saying they don't get it. But I've had so many people who do get it, and that's what's beautiful. And so many people who've just written to me to say how it really helped them with something, and that's very special to me. So yes, so before it was published, I think there was almost a bit of a feeling of disbelief. You can't believe it's actually happening. That you've actually got something. What I find really beautiful about it is that I feel like I've got a tangible sort of a piece of my creativity. When you're dancing, once you've finished your dance, it's done. There's nothing you can almost hold on to, but to have a tangible piece of creativity is something beautiful.
Definitely. In fact, what I personally feel on this topic, that if you're doing something which is still unaware for the world, and when it goes live and everybody accepts it with open heart, then that's one of the most beautiful feelings, I guess.
It is, and I just, yes, the reception. It's almost like you can't anticipate what the reception will be, and the beautiful reception. So that to me, as I'd said, like getting back messages from people, and almost you can say unexpected people. Maybe someone you thought wouldn't understand, and then they come back and say, "Oh, I opened, this book. I'm keeping it by my bedside." Or somebody I knew had actually been through a horrible attack, and they said they slept with it under their pillow to help them afterwards. So yeah, you just don't know where your words and your work will reach and how they will help people.
So ma'am, like as of now, what's your current mental state as an author, as a person? What are the things which you're focusing upon on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think as an author, I sort of have a feeling of, with the Little Crow book, I'd like to get it going, but I still want to give my Tree Wisdom book its chance to go out further into the world. So I suppose I'm feeling a little bit between two places at the moment, but still, very positive. And I mean, for all of us, think this is it's been such a strange past 2 years. It seems like maybe we're coming out the pandemic, but you can never know, because 2 years ago, none of us could have imagined how our world could change. So for me, it's very much taking things one day at a time. And I think, like all of us, you have good days, you have bad days, but just keep moving one foot in front of the other. And for me, I think what this book taught me as well is to look for the beauty and the magic around you. Look for the good things that you can hold on to when you are having a day where maybe you're having anxiety or just feeling everything's just a bit too much. So it's to hold on to the little sparks of beauty and what you'd mentioned earlier, how nature's there for us, how it's speaking to us all the time if we just take a moment to slow down, stop, and connect in with it.
And ma'am, my last question to this podcast would be like, after listening to this podcast, many people will start writing, or many upcoming authors will be listening to this podcast who will be holding their first draft in their laptop, in their diaries and everywhere. So what will be your one piece of advice for them?
I think, first of all, they must go for it. They must keep moving forward. I think share it with somebody that you trust, who you know knows what they're sort of talking about, maybe either an author or a writer in some way. Share it with them for their feedback and their thoughts. Somebody also where you know it's a safe space. They're going to give you constructive and good feedback. And then when you're looking at publishing options, again, I think going the route of a publishing house is a very tough route to go. I sort of didn't even think about that, just because my friend who was the author had introduced me to her publisher. So I looked at the self-publishing route. But just explore the options and just keep taking one step in front of the other, and speak to people who you know that they know the industry.
Okay, so that's all for today, guys. I hope you must have enjoyed this lovely conversation, and if you do, then do follow our podcast, Reading the Author, available on all the leading podcast platforms. And don't forget to buy and read the book. You can just search on Amazon Fiona Bird. You will just find the book. Either you can search the book's title, A Little Book of Tree Wisdom. You will get the book. Just buy it, read it, and share with your friends and family as well. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming on our show. It was my honor to host you today.
Thank you so much, Gaurav.
Pleasure.